Mercedes has spoken, and Toto Wolff has delivered. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli will also form the Silver Arrows driver duo in 2026. It's no surprise, but it's a clear statement. In a time when Formula One's driver market has become a chessboard of power, Mercedes is betting on consistency. No drama, no experiments, no flight forward, but control, calculation, and strategy. It was only a question of when, not if, Wolff said when making the extension official. But between the lines, there's more than the press release reveals. Mercedes is in the midst of restructuring, technically, politically, and culturally. And with this decision, the team closes the door on speculation that has been circulating around Brackley for months. The rumors that Russell was looking for a longer-term contract, or that Mercedes internally wanted to make space, in case Max Verstappen comes onto the market in the future. Russell stays, and for good reason. Since his rise in 2022 from the Williams customer team to the factory squad, the Briton has shown he's more than just Lewis Hamilton's successor. 5 wins, most recently the triumph in Singapore, have definitively made him the face of the team. He's analytical, uncompromising, sometimes stubborn. And that's exactly what Mercedes needs at this stage. The years of defeats against Red Bull have left their mark, and Wolff knows. A new era requires not just new technology, but new leadership figures. But the more exciting element of this decision bears the name Kimi Antonelli. 18 years old, Italian, a product of the Mercedes Junior program, and already an integral part of the future strategy. His first season was a crash course in reality. A podium in Canada, a sprint pole in Miami, but also a series of sobering races in Europe. Nevertheless, Antonelli impressed the engineers with his maturity and his ability to analyze mistakes instead of repeating them. That Mercedes now confirms continuing with him is more than trust. It's a signal to all of Formula One. The Silver Arrows are building their future in-house. Wolff repeatedly emphasizes that Mercedes thinks long-term. But behind this commitment, there's also a risk. With Russell and Antonelli, the team consciously positions itself against the trend that has dominated Formula One for years: the pursuit of short-term superstars. Red Bull has Verstappen, McLaren has Piastri, Ferrari has Hamilton. Mercedes, on the other hand, relies on its own structure, on a balance between experience and youth. It's a bold move, or a dangerous one, because the 2026 season marks the beginning of a new technical era. The power unit regulations change radically. The balance between combustion engine and electric energy is being redefined. Even an 8-time Constructors' World Champion is not immune to miscalculations. And here lies the real risk. If the new Mercedes concept fails, people will ask whether Wolff would have decided differently with a more experienced driver, or greater star power. Russell naturally sees it differently. In his statements, he speaks of loyalty, partnership, responsibility, words that fit perfectly with the corporate language of a team that always presents itself externally as rational and united. But internally, everyone knows. For Russell, 2026 is crucial. It will be his 10th season in the Mercedes system, and he knows he's competing with the new generation of drivers who are younger, more aggressive, and hungrier. Should Mercedes remain only the second winner in the new era as well, the Briton's patience will be severely tested. Antonelli, on the other hand, is experiencing the opposite, the phase where everything seems possible. For him, every Grand Prix is a learning platform, every setback an investment. But for him too, Mercedes forgives no stagnation. He may be the face of the future, but in Formula One, the future is never certain. The pressure will increase, and not just from the outside. Russell won't give up his position as team leader without a fight, and Wolff will do everything to avoid internal conflicts. But those who know Mercedes' history know, sooner or later, that's exactly what it will be about. With the confirmation of the driver duo, Mercedes buys itself time, but not peace. The team has control of the headlines, but the race against Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari will be tougher than ever. In Austin, the announcement will be celebrated, but behind the scenes, the simulations, tests, and preparations for the biggest technical break in the last 10 years are already running. And while Toto Wolff radiates the calm of a man who already knows the next step, the competition knows exactly. When Mercedes shows stability, it's never from convenience, but as camouflage. The game for 2026 has officially begun. Mercedes, with the announcement of its driver duo for 2026, has not only defined the future, but also sent a clear signal to the competition. Toto Wolff doesn't play a short game. While other teams are characterized by chaos, uncertainty, and power struggles, Mercedes relies on predictability. But in Formula One, predictability is often a risk. Because what looks like a sober, logical decision on the outside is actually a tactical move in an overheated driver market. Red Bull staggers after Christian Horner's departure and the unrest over the engine partnership with Ford. McLaren fights internally with tensions between Piastri and Norris. Ferrari faces a generational change that questions everything. In this environment, Wolff wanted to avoid one thing: weakness. The confirmation of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli creates stability, but it also creates expectations. Russell is no longer an up-and-coming newcomer. He's an established Grand Prix winner, entering the next phase of his career. With 8 years in Formula One and almost a decade under the Mercedes banner, he's long been the face of the team. But with that also grows the pressure. 2026 will be the moment that shows whether Russell can close the gap left by Lewis Hamilton's departure. Kimi Antonelli, on the other hand, is a calculated gamble. Mercedes is investing not just in talent, but in symbolism. The 18-year-old Italian is the product of its own system, a signal to the entire racing world that you don't need to borrow young drivers to celebrate success. But reality is harsher. The leap from potential to world class is a rocky road, and Mercedes is not a place where patience is taken for granted. A single bad season starts in 2026, and the voices of doubt will become loud. Toto Wolff knows this. That's why he consciously chose the timing of the announcement, shortly before the US Grand Prix, where Mercedes is feeling tailwinds again after the victory in Singapore. It's a psychological move. Demonstrate strength before questions arise. And yet a remainder of uncertainty stays. Because in Formula One, no contract is as stable as it seems. Insiders report that the talks with Russell were more complex than Wolff publicly admits. The Briton wanted more say, fewer marketing obligations, a clearer perspective beyond 2026. Wolff, on the other hand, wanted flexibility, especially in case Max Verstappen enters the market. Officially, Mercedes denies any interest, but rumors about a secret option for 2027 persist. Verstappen and Wolff respect each other. Should Red Bull fail in the new engine regulations, respect could suddenly become reality. Politically, Mercedes thus positions itself as the cool opponent in chaos. Red Bull becomes a family feud between Helmut Marko, Ford, and Jos Verstappen. McLaren threatens to break apart over the rivalry of its two stars. Ferrari lives in a permanent bubble between glamour and unrest. And in the middle stands Mercedes, rational, objective, calculating. Exactly this attitude, which many criticize as too sterile, could ultimately be their greatest advantage. But Wolff also has a weakness: control. For years, he's been trying to trim the team towards stability while the competition relies on aggression. If 2026 brings new rules and the sport's hierarchy is redistributed, control could become stagnation. If Red Bull brings the better engine, if McLaren finds the better aero path, if Ferrari overcomes its error culture, then it will be seen whether loyalty is really stronger than risk. Russell himself appears undeterred. On the outside, he seems like the perfect team player, but internally, everyone knows he wants more. More responsibility, more influence, more proof that he's Hamilton's legitimate successor. Recent months have shown he's on the right track, but also that Mercedes doesn't yet have the package to consistently keep up with Red Bull. If that doesn't change in 2026, loyalty could become frustration. And Antonelli? He's the wild card in this game, not yet ready to take over leadership, but talented enough to demand it someday. In him lies the potential of a new Leclerc or a new Verstappen. But Toto Wolff must guide him carefully without clipping his wings. Too early a comparison with the sport's greats could destroy him as much as excessive protection. With this decision, Mercedes has thus confirmed two drivers, but also set two stories in motion. That of the established one who must finally deliver, and that of the newcomer who may learn but cannot fail. Together they form the foundation of a new era. Formula One in 2026 will not be an evolutionary step, it will be a reset. New technology, new power dynamics, new alliances. And Mercedes doesn't just want to survive, but to dominate again. But this time, not with raw power, but with precision. Toto Wolff knows. The rivals will make mistakes. Red Bull risks everything with its engine project. McLaren threatens to implode internally, and Ferrari remains Ferrari. Big, shiny, but vulnerable. If Mercedes holds its line, they could strike exactly when everyone else staggers.